I know I talk a lot about my time in Montana, and I think I've alluded a little bit to my time before then working at St. Catherine's in Chelsea. So Chelsea is a small little town, like even smaller than Greensboro. Oh no, it is. It is very, very small. I think you'd miss it if you blinked driving by, if you were even on the right road to get over there. And the St. Catherine's was, I worked there middle of my time in college, right before I started the discernment process. And it was a startup church at that time. So it was a little different than any other church I've been in because everything there was new. So instead of trying to figure out how we'd done things before, I was running off to other churches to figure out how they did their welcome packet and things like that. And you would have actually seen John Mark, who was the first priest there and the priest until just about a year ago there, at both my ordinations actually. He was a sponsor for both of them. The reason I say this is because I go back every now and then for various services after my summer working with him, and go to various services. Typically it'd be the Easter Vigil, but another one that I was there quite frequently for was for the Epiphany service that he would do. And I think I was really amazed the first few times that I went there, because he, in his sermon, would talk about what Epiphany is really about. And part of my, I was awed and amazed and went on to learn a lot of things myself about Epiphany, because what he'd said was something completely unknown to me at that time. Because we usually think of the wise men when we think of Epiphany, and it's really just kind of the bookend to what we have in Christmas. But what Epiphany is really about is about the incarnation of Jesus among us. It's about how God has made himself manifest to us in the world. And in fact, one of the things I've learned since then is it's even older than Christmas. It's one of the older services that we have in the church. And I think as time went on, as Christmas was developed, people were looking at the incarnation. People were looking at God being manifest. And one of the ways that we see that most fervently is in the birth, in Christmas. And so in this way, Epiphany becomes the tail end, because we've made it more about the wise men. And in part because this is a continuation of Jesus being manifest in the world through his birth. Because what are the wise men going to celebrate? They're going to celebrate Jesus' birth because they've seen his star and they've followed it all the way to Israel. Now, of course, they, like we, and as we've seen too in Paul wanting to make God manifest even to the rulers, well, rather, I should say, the writer of Ephesians, making it manifest to the rulers. We see this tendency, even in the wise men that we share, that we think God is going to make himself manifest to the most powerful. He's going to make himself manifest in the mightiest of ways. And so, of course, the wise men do what we probably would do, and they go to the palace. Because, as they say, they know this is to be the king of the Jews. So where would the king of the Jews be? In the palace. And so they go to Herod. And what they end up seeing is that not only is the power of God not in the palace, it's so not in the palace that Herod has no idea what they're talking about. He has to go to his own scribes, his own learned people, to figure out, what is this that the wise men are talking about? Where is this king supposed to be manifest? And he learns in Bethlehem of Judea. And so, as the wise men travel there, as they travel to Judea, to Bethlehem, this small little town, not so small now, but small at that time, they don't find Jesus in the house of the rich or in the house of the mighty. They find it in the dwelling place of a poor, skilled worker, Joseph, and of a young teenage mother. The exact opposite of what they were originally expecting. The other thing that we see too with this power is it's so great that King Herod, this great king, is so frightened that he later goes off and kills any child he can find in this area in order to ensure that no one comes to obscure his own power. This is how frightened he is of what God is doing. And this is also how clueless he is to what true power really is. And this harkens back to the verse that I mentioned in our Christmas Eve service. A verse by our patron saint, St. Paul. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. That the power of God is made perfect in weakness. So when we think back to the incarnation of God in the world through Jesus Christ, this is how we know who God is, by how God has made himself manifest in the world. And he hasn't done it through an army. He hasn't done it through a mighty king. But he's done it through the son of poor people in an impoverished area, in really the backwaters of the Roman Empire, really the backwaters of the backwaters. And he's done it through this person, through this man, Jesus, through whom God has been willing to even die on the cross for us in order to save us from sin and from death. And so, as we move into the season of Epiphany, this is something to reflect on and to think about. How has God made himself manifest in the world? Not through power. Not through the power of kings or the rich and the mighty, but through power that is made perfect in weakness, even